You could be talking to someone who says they care about you and still feel like you're one small mistake away from being replaced. Like if you stopped trying so hard, if you stopped being useful, if you stopped being easy, they would quietly choose someone else. You don't say this out loud, but it sits there. Why does your mind keep preparing for replacement even when nothing is wrong? It shows up in small moments. They reply a little slower than usual. Your chest tightens. You replay your last message. Was it annoying? Too much? Not enough? When they seem distant, you don't ask what's wrong. You adjust. You become more agreeable, more supportive, less demanding. You start performing stability. And the exhausting part? Even when they reassure you, it doesn't fully land. Because this isn't about logic, it's about identity. Somewhere deep down, you don't feel inherently chosen. You feel temporarily tolerated. Psychology calls this attachment insecurity, but not in the dramatic way social media uses it. This isn't clinginess, it's hyper-awareness, a nervous system trained to scan for signs of emotional eviction, and that changes how you move through every relationship. But here's the part no one explains. You weren't born feeling replaceable. So what taught your brain this rule? You are not broken, you are patterned. If you feel replaceable, it's likely because at some point, connection felt unstable. Maybe affection was inconsistent. Maybe approval had conditions. Maybe attention could disappear without warning. Your brain learned something simple. Closeness is fragile, so it adapted. It started monitoring, anticipating, optimizing, not because you're needy, but because your nervous system equates unpredictability with danger. This feeling is not weakness, it's protection. But protection can become prison if the brain never updates the rule. So how does that rule get written in the first place? Your brain has a prediction system. Its job is to reduce uncertainty. In attachment science, this is called an internal working model, a mental blueprint of how relationships work. Here's the metaphor. Imagine your brain as a smoke detector. If you grew up around emotional fires, sudden withdrawal, criticism, comparison, your detector became hypersensitive. Now it goes off at steam. A neutral text feels like rejection. A quiet evening feels like distance. Neuroscience shows that the amygdala, the brain's threat detector, activates quickly in social uncertainty, before logic steps in. Then confirmation bias joins. Your mind scans for proof that you're secondary and ignores evidence that you're secure. Mental model, past experience, threat sensitivity, hyper-monitoring, over-adjusting, exhaustion. The tragedy? The more you over-adjust, the less authentic you feel, and the more replaceable you become in your own eyes. So how do you interrupt a pattern that feels automatic? Not with affirmations, with nervous system recalibration. 1. Delay the interpretation. What to do? When you feel the "I'm being replaced" thought, pause before creating a story. Why it works? Cognitive psychology shows that thoughts are predictions, not facts. Pausing reduces amygdala dominance and gives the prefrontal cortex time to assess reality. Example, instead of "they're losing interest," say "I'm noticing my threat response." You separate sensation from story. That weakens the loop. 2. Stop over-optimizing yourself. What to do? Resist the urge to immediately become more pleasing or useful. Why it works? Behavioral reinforcement strengthens patterns. If you reduce anxiety by overperforming, your brain learns that anxiety was correct. Example, don't send the extra message to regain closeness. Let the silence exist. You teach your nervous system that connection doesn't collapse without constant management. 3. Test stability in small doses. What to do? Express one small need or boundary. Why it works? Exposure therapy principles apply socially. Safe exposure to vulnerability updates your internal working model. Example, say, "I felt a little distant yesterday. Are we okay?" If the relationship holds, your brain gathers corrective evidence. 4. Build identity outside approval. What to do? Strengthen parts of your life not dependent on one person's response. Why it works. Self-determination theory shows autonomy reduces attachment anxiety. When identity isn't fused with one bond, threat perception lowers. Example, invest in a skill, a hobby, a private goal. You become chosen by yourself first. Here's the model to remember. You don't feel replaceable because you are. You feel replaceable because your smoke detector is loud. The goal isn't to remove it, it's to recalibrate it. Each pause, each resisted over-adjustment, each honest expression tells your brain connection can survive imperfection. Over time, the prediction changes, and when the prediction changes, the feeling follows. Maybe you've spent years trying to be irreplaceable, more interesting, more supportive, less complicated. But real security isn't built by becoming unforgettable. It's built by staying visible without constantly editing yourself. You were never meant to compete for permanence. The right connections don't keep score quietly. They stay, and slowly, gently, your nervous system can learn to stay too.